Uta Collier, file 23168.
All right, we are back on the record on this file, still at the preliminary stage, still needing to hear from our qualified expert witness from the tribe. We were delayed in beginning today's proceedings to allow Mr. Brooks to chat with Ms. Collier, mother in this case, as well as to let Ms. Thomas talk with our tribal representatives and expert potential witnesses. I'm still waiting for Ms. Heiss's device to successfully join our meeting. But something else came up as it relates to notifications on Mr. Thomas. So let's do appearances and then we'll catch everything else up. Ms. Heiss, welcome. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. Lee Heiss, lawyer guardian ad litem.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. Cameron, go ahead and put your appearance on.
Cameron Cusick, caseworker for the department.
Okay, two things. Number one, move that microphone a lot closer to you. It's the larger piece and it's Velcro to the table.
Give it a yank. Microphone.
Deputy Ames, would you mind arranging that for me?
What you're holding is a button that mutes.
Okay.
The other piece is the microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, move it nice and close to you because you're very soft from where I'm over here. And spell your name first.
Kameron.
Last name?
Cusick, Kuzich.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Brooks, I represent the mother, Carla Collier. Ms. Collier, will you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Your Honor, I am here.
Who's I? What's your name?
Carla Collier, Uta's mother.
Thank you.
Very good. And from the tribe?
Yes, Procedural.
Okay. All right, let's do that one more time. Percy, P-E-R-C-Y, right?
Yeah, P-E-R-C-Y. Ballot, B as in boy, A-L-L-O-T.
B-A-L-L-O-T.
And Kiara Melton.
Okay, Kiara is K-I-A-R-A-H, is that right?
Yes.
And then Melton is M-E-L-T-O-N, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Thomas, as it relates to efforts in the appearance of Mr. Sean Thomas, if I could hear from you on that officially on the record, please.
Thank you, Judge. At the last hearing or during that last hearing, it came to our attention around that time that Mr. Thomas was incarcerated. And in part for the reasons why we filed a petition against him, we were unable to confirm how to secure his presence to participate in this hearing. We do have a proof of service that the petition, and I believe the notice of hearing was sent to the facility. I'm not sure. We don't have a proof of service that indicates he was personally served or actually received it. But he is not here today.
All right, and that's important because we've had an amended petition filed September 25th, which does indicate he is a respondent father. What the court would be inclined to do would be to adjourn only as it relates to Mr. Sean Thomas and set another date for his opportunity to have a full preliminary hearing, to be introduced to the petition and to secure him an attorney. But to proceed as it relates to the child as well as the mother for purposes of today's preliminary hearing, and of course, testimony from our qualified expert witness, unless there's any objections. Mr. Brooks?
No, I have none.
Ms. Heiss?
No objection.
All right.
That was scheduled. What the hell is that? It's your government at work.
Okay. Anyway, don't worry. It informed us it was not actually an emergency. So we'll carry on. Mr. Brooks, let's run through a couple of preliminary things. I think we may have done this already, but do you, oh shoot, holy cow.
Okay.
Can you confirm your client has received and you've been able to talk with her about the petition?
The answer is yes to both questions.
Thank you. We know she potentially has some Native American heritage, which is why our tribes are here. Are there any updates on any of that information?
No, Your Honor. My understanding is the connection is through the biological father, not the mother.
All right. Have you confirmed that she has or has not any other connections?
No, I have not.
Okay, so we'll ask her about that. And then finally, are there any other cases filed or pending that concern this child?
I did not ask the question.
How does she wish to proceed?
We would like a bench trial on the numerous allegations contained in this petition.
All right. And is she seeking placement today?
Yes, she has asked for placement.
Thank you. All right. It is a new amended petition. She has the right to have this read into the record. Have you talked with her about that? Do you know if she'd like to waive that right?
I didn't ask her that question either. I hate that question.
All right. Deputy Anderson, would you swear in Ms. Carla Collier, please? While you're at it, maybe Mr. Cameron Kuzich. And I'm assuming we're going to be hearing from our QEW, Mr. Ballot. Is that right, Ms. Thomas?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so if you could swear in, please, Percy Ballot, Cameron Kuzich, and Carla Collier.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Thank you. If you're on Zoom, I can't see you, but hopefully you can hear me. Can you raise your right hand, please, and let me know when it's raised?
Yes.
You have someone else on Zoom that needs to acknowledge?
Yes, Ms. Collier?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is your hand raised, your right hand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to Ms. Carla Collier first. Mr. Brooks, would you like to do the inquiry?
Ma'am, you heard the judge's questions about any blood connection you have to any Native American tribe or band, did you?
I'm not native that I know of, Your Honor.
Any connection to do with Native American tribes would be through the child's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want this 6-page petition read to you line by line?
I would like it sent to my email if possible, Your Honor.
Don't you already have a copy?
Yes, Your Honor, but I would also like a copy of the email to save digitally if possible.
Well, before we go any further, it would appear that there is a proof of service indicating that this petition was emailed to you at colliercarla65@gmail.com on September 26th.
I will recheck my email then, Your Honor.
It would have been from Mr. Cameron Kuzich.
Okay, thank you.
So
Finally, it is my understanding after talking to you that you and I have agreed we would have a bench trial on these allegations. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
I've also advised you have the right, if you chose to have a jury trial. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
all right, thank you. If you change your mind, you have 14 days to file that jury demand in writing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. As it relates to the testimony of your witness today, Ms. Thomas.
Your Honor, would I guess I'll defer to the court if you'd like me to call the qualified expert witness first, or whether Mr. Cusick would be most appropriate given the amended petition.
Whatever you prefer, Ms. Hines.
My concern about the new allegations on the amended petition are that the only amendment was to add allegations relating to Mr. Thomas. Mr. Cusick has already testified to the petition as it relates to Ms. Collier. And I believe that the reason for the adjournments have been to allow for the tribe to have a qualified expert witness present and to testify. So I will leave it at that.
Did you want to elicit any testimony from him on the amended pieces of the petition?
From Mr. Cusick?
Yes, I thought you wanted to call him first.
My concern is that the father is not present, and that is the only amendment is the allegations regarding him.
Well, last time we were here, there was talk of trying to place the child with him because he was not a respondent. So if the request is to continue placement rather than, or continue foster care rather than returning the child to him, I think we need to visit whatever facts you have in support of that. And then we'll make arrangements to secure his presence at a subsequent hearing as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, Your Honor, then I will call Mr. Cusick.
All right, he has been sworn. Go ahead with any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mr. Cusick, did you draft this amended petition as relates to this matter?
Yes, I did.
And generally, the amendment includes allegations against Mr. Thomas. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And generally, what is the substantial risk of harm if the child were to be placed in Mr. Thomas's care and custody today?
Mr. Thomas is facing CSC charges. I believe, as we said before, he's incarcerated. The concern there is that there could be potential risk, as I believe the allegations in his separate case were that he sexually abused a 15-year-old child that was not his child, but was a child of somebody, a acquaintance or a partner along those lines. And so I don't think it would be appropriate to place with him. Mr. Thomas also, when before we knew about these allegations, he refused the home placement when we were considering placing with him.
And after Mr. Thomas was aware of these proceedings, correct?
Yes.
And he was aware that originally there was going to be an inquiry as to whether he could get care and custody of the child, correct?
Yes, he was aware of this originally.
And did he make any efforts to fly to Michigan to obtain a custody order or file for custody or anything of that nature?
He only told me he was trying to contact his attorney and that he did not have the custody order. He was contacting his attorney for that reason, but he never told me that he found the custody order, and no, he did not fly to Michigan or make any efforts for that.
And has he been cooperative since then with the department?
No, he has not.
What efforts did the department employ to prevent this new petition from being filed?
Could you repeat the question?
Just needing to know what active efforts were utilized by the department to prevent the need for this petition.
Efforts were made to locate the custody order for Sean Thomas. I also spoke with the CPS worker and local law enforcement in Washington, where these charges with Mr. Thomas are being investigated, to corroborate the allegations that CPS was investigating. So I asked law enforcement so that could be, their statement could be corroborated with CPS's in Washington.
Thank you. And at this time, do you believe that Ms. Collier, there's been any change of circumstance in which Ms. Collier could provide proper care and custody to the child that is adequate to safeguard her?
No, I do not. Ms. Collier has been transient, has a history of being transient. She's in past CPS records has failed to have medication for the child when going from shelter to shelter. As of right now, I believe she the last address she had was in Kentucky. I believe now she's currently no longer in Kentucky and is in Seattle. So I don't believe that she's wants reunification with her child, that she's taking it very seriously if she's not local where the child is currently and is out of state.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Cusick.
Mr. Brooks?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Your next witness, Ms. Thomas?
I'd call Mr. Ballot.
All right, he has been sworn. You may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Ballot, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. For the record, can you please state your role and what tribe you are affiliated with?
I am Percy Ballard Sr., and I'm the president of the Native Village of Buckland.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of that. You're president of what?
Agriculture Luxford.
Okay, I think I have that information somewhere else too. Is it the native tribe, the native village of Buckland? Is that right, Mr. Ballot?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and that's Bucklin.
Thank you.
And that's in Alaska, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ballot, do you know when the tribe was first contacted about this investigation?
September 1, no, wrong there.
And are you aware of whether someone from the tribe did attend the initial removal hearing?
Yes, the administrators for Rico Grabman. I think Pierre was off kicked in.
Okay. And since that hearing, have you had the opportunity to review any documents that pertain to this matter?
Yes.
Okay. And recently an amended petition was filed. Did you have an opportunity to review that petition?
Yes.
Okay. And to clarify, that would it consist of a petition form, something called a JC04B, and then an addendum, which would be written on like a Word document?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And because you were not at the preliminary hearing to hear about active efforts, based on what you read in the petition, do you believe that the department made active efforts to prevent removal of this child from her family?
Yes.
And based on your review of the file, what do you believe constituted the active efforts?
That they were trying to make effort to let us know that what's going on with the child.
Generally, would you agree active efforts include an extended period of time facilitating community supports between the mother for the mother and child?
Yes.
And would active efforts also include assisting in funding hotel stays when there was no other shelter for the mother and child?
Yes.
And would you also agree that active efforts include collaboration with law enforcement and other government agencies to ensure the factual accuracy of allegations against Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
And are those efforts culturally appropriate as they aimed to preserve the family?
Yes, they are.
And based on your review of the record, do you believe that those active efforts were successful in preventing the child from being removed from the parents?
Yes, we do.
You believe that they were successful in preventing the removal?
Yes.
Or were they not successful in preventing removal?
You're breaking up a little bit on the
efforts that we just went over. Would you agree that they were not successful in preventing the child from being removed from her parents?
Yes.
And because those active efforts were not successful, do you believe that today removal remains necessary to prevent physical and emotional harm to the child?
Yes, we do.
And to the best of your ability, what would be the physical or emotional harm the tribe is concerned about if the child were not, or I'm sorry, if the child were to be placed or returned to either parent?
Yes.
Do you, Mr. Ballot, the question was, what physical or emotional harm would the child be at risk for if the child were with either parent?
Well, with the father, possible sexual abuse, and with the mother, neglect,
Thank you.
psychological harm.
And does the tribe have any appropriate foster homes that are willing to take placement of the child right now?
No, we don't.
Do you believe that the current foster home serves as an appropriate placement?
Yes.
Can you offer any opinion or any recommendations for activities, services, or other things that would help ensure that the current placement is being culturally sensitive to the child's Native American heritage?
What are activities or services we have?
No, just what, if you could provide any advice to the placement to assist in ensuring that the child's Native American heritage is being supported, I guess.
We'd be willing to place the child where she is right now.
Okay. So there's nothing special that they necessarily need to do or should do for her?
I'd relate that to Kiera.
Okay, I can definitely ask her that at a later time. And do you, as the qualified expert witness, have any other or any additional thoughts or recommendations regarding placement of this child moving forward?
Just that we know that it's not good for her to be with her mother or the father, especially the father.
And does the tribe support exploring placement with relatives?
Yes.
And does the tribe have a preference as to whether the relatives, I'm sorry, I strike that question. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks,
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ballot, for your testimony and your time. We appreciate that. Any reason that we should keep him, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
I have no problem with that.
Ms. Heiss?
No reason to keep him today, thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Ballot, you're welcome to stay and listen if you wish, but if you need to get on to other things, you're also welcome to hang up. Once again, we appreciate your time.
I think I will listen in if I may.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome to stay in the meeting. All right, Ms. Thomas, where would you like to go from here?
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions for our witness at this time. Our argument regarding removal remains the same, in addition to adding the fact that placement as hoped with Mr. Thomas is wholly inappropriate, and we are not able to do that. The agency continues to make efforts to explore relatives. Those requests have been put in with ICPC or are in the process of it. One relative is in California and the other in Alaska, so the distance makes it quite hard. There are continuing concerns about Ms. Collier, and she remains unavailable to the child. So we would just request that this court continue or authorize the amended petition and continue placement of the child pending trial.
All right. Well, Mr. Kuzich, what is the status of the investigation into relative placement?
The placements have been sent and we're waiting to hear back from both Alaska and California. Alaska, the father's mother, her name is Lily Thomas. And we have to hear back from each state as of right now.
Do you know when those were submitted?
September 19th, they were emailed.
And what is the typical turnaround, if you know?
I'm not sure exactly. I think it can be as many as, or as much as 3 months or so.
Is there anything that could be done to expedite that, or any resources that you have not looked at in order to expedite that?
I'm not sure if there's anything. I'll have to ask in my department.
So that was for Lily Thomas, the paternal grandmother in Alaska, and who's the other relative?
Teresa Bloom. She lives in Redding, California.
And how is this person related to the child?
She's Mr. Thomas's sister, biological sister.
Okay. I know we have Ms. Kiera Melton with us as well. Ms. Melton, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Deputy Ames, would you swear her in, please?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, I didn't understand her.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Let me know when it's raised.
It's raised.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Melton. This is Judge Sala. I'm wondering if there's anything on your end that could be used to help support this child. Would you be able to help with the investigation into the relative placement, or have any other suggestions for placement at this time?
Since I got caught up with this case late, but one of the family members did call my office number not too long ago. I forgot which day was that, but their names were Mark and Lily Thomas. Oh, Laverne. Yeah, Mark and Lily Thomas. They're related to Sean.
Yes. Do you or any officials from the tribe ever do investigations for, placements?
No, usually the caseworkers that we work with does that part.
Okay. Have you been able to be in touch with the family where the child is currently staying?
No, I didn't get any updates of where she is or anything.
Okay. Do we need to, after the hearing, perhaps provide that information to you? Would you like to be able to reach out to them?
If needed, sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Questions based on my questions, counselors?
Ma'am, the child is located in Lenawee County, Michigan. Do you have some vague concept of where I'm talking about?
That question was for you, Ms. Melton.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand his question. It's
The child is located in Lenawee County, Michigan, south of Detroit, about an hour. Do you have an idea how far away that is from where the relatives are?
No.
Do you know where the relatives live?
They didn't give me where they live. They just called on to know when's the next hearing and gave me their point of view of what's happening.
Where do they live?
They didn't give me a name or where they live. They just gave me their numbers and emails.
Where is your office?
Where's
Ma'am.
my what?
Where do you work? What's the location?
Buckland, Alaska.
Is that up in the Arctic Circle?
Yep.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Ms. Thomas, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Ms. Melton. Okay, anybody you would like us to hear from today, Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Thomas, any comments?
Your Honor, I'll rely on the statements that I made earlier during this hearing. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Brooks?
Well, I will simply point out with this 6-page complaint that I will be requiring the court to adhere to the rules of evidence when the day comes we try this case.
Thank you. Ms. Heiss?
I wanted to repeat that I have seen this child face to face and that she is settling well into non-relative foster care. She does have access to her mother through video visits. At this point, the child is well adjusted. All of her needs are being met in the current placement, where she has foster siblings who are really close in age. I think there are 4 other children that when I saw. So she's doing well while we get all this process in place for her. Thank you.
All right, well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's hearing, including as best as can be demonstrated for today as it relates to Mr. Sean Thomas. We will look for further proofs that he's been notified and served, as well as information from wherever he's incarcerated, so that we can make sure we make those arrangements in the future, Mr. Kuzich or Ms. Fullerton, whoever wants to tackle that. For purposes of today's hearing, we did hear from the president of the Native Village of Buckland, Percy Vallet Sr., who supported that as a result of the father's potential risk of sexual harm and the mother's potential risk for further neglect, that the removal of the child remains necessary pending the court's next orders. I do also find that the record supports that custody with either parent at this time presents a substantial risk of harm to this child's life, physical health, or mental well-being. For the same reasons, as well as some of the details that were offered by Mr. Kuzich today that further are uncontested and do support that risk of harm remains. We have explored on the record whether or not there are any other services or other arrangement except removal reasonably necessary or reasonably available to adequately safeguard the child. That was explored at length prior to removal, by way of some of those efforts that were given to provide financial support for a hotel and motel, and those were not successful. Relative searches are pending through ICPC, and there are no other arrangements at this point in time that would be reasonably available to adequately safeguard this child from risk associated with allowing her to remain with her parents. For those same reasons, continuing the child's residence in the home is contrary to her welfare with her mother. We did hear about reasonable efforts to prevent or eliminate the need for removal of this child, specifically as it relates to mother last time, briefly today, and then as well as the reasonable efforts as it relates to father. That does have to do with the investigation and the discovery of the current pending criminal charges. Prior to that, he was being explored for placement, and the department was reaching out very actively to try to secure his cooperation. I was aware of that as well. He was asked to come to Michigan at one point and pick up the child, and he did not do so. Conditions of child custody away from the parent are adequate to safeguard this child's health and welfare. She is doing well where she is at in her foster care placement, and that is meeting her needs at this time. The court does find that there is probable cause to authorize the second petition, but it's the first amended petition, and to authorize the child's continued placement in foster care. We will also find that our agency and the department proper has done their obligation to offer active efforts and to ensure that the ICWA and MIFA statutes are being followed. And we have confirmed that with our representatives of the tribe as well today. The court's decision is supported by the QEW as well as the guardian ad litem, Ms. Heiss, who I also find in satisfaction of her obligations. Thank you for your diligence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We will adjourn. Well, we'll conclude today's hearing as it relates to mom and set that for bench trial. And we'll schedule the father's preliminary hearing and look to make some additional arrangements for him moving forward. I have potentially as a backup to the to a trial that is set for its second day of jury on Friday, November 3rd, potentially sometime. Ms. Thomas, what are your thoughts on that day?
I am agreeable to that.
Ms. Heiss, your thoughts?
I'm available, yes.
Mr. Brooks?
I'm not a part of that case, so I don't know anything about it,
All right. Well,
but I'm agreeable if it's open.
thank you. November 3rd, if you could pencil it in, just in case Mr. McFarland continues to be unavailable for some reason, we'd appreciate it. But we'll set the bench trial as it relates to mother's case on Friday, November 3rd, commencing at 9 a.m. Let's go ahead and set the preliminary hearing for father to also take place that day. What state is he incarcerated in?
Washington.
All right, so let's set his for 1:30 p.m. to give them enough time to be open during business hours to attend the hearing if we're able to secure his presence. And please provide any information you can as soon as you can so that we can help from our end, try to make sure he's able to be here and have an attorney for him. All right. Child will remain where she's placed. That is the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances. Unless there's any questions, I believe that's all for today.
I have one issue I want to raise off the record, but with my client, and that is her address, phone number. She's a long way from here.
Very well. Any other questions for the record?
No.
Judge.